Hey guys, tonight we are traveling back across the golden sands and the centuries to a land where the sun was a god and the river was the heartbeat of the world. You probably believe this whole eyeliner thing was just a fancy fashion statement for the elite or a way for Cleopatra to look iconic in a movie. But the truth is far more practical, dusty, and deeply rooted in survival. It was less about the runway and more about not going blind in a desert glare that could melt a modern smartphone. Before you get too comfortable and possibly fall asleep halfway through, tap like and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy this odd mix of boredom and history. It keeps the channel alive and the stories just sleepy enough to help you drift off again next time. I'd love to know where you are listening from tonight. So feel free to leave your city and your local time in the comments. It is always a bit magical to see how far these sleepy stories travel while the rest of the world is dreaming. Now, dim the lights, let the world outside grow quiet, and turn on a fan if you like that soft, steady hum in the background. Let your shoulders loosen and your breathing slow. This is your time to drift. No rush, no deadlines, no noise. Just you, a little warmth in the air, and the faint whisper of history waiting to unfold. So, settle in, and let's ease gently into tonight's journey together. The first thing you notice is the weight of the air. It is heavy, warm, and carries the faint, sweet scent of damp earth and blooming lotus flowers. You are lying on a thin mat of woven reeds, and the pillow beneath your head is not a soft cloud of feathers, but a curved block of polished wood or smooth limestone. It supports the base of your skull with a firm, unyielding pressure that forces your neck into a perfect, upright alignment. If you think your modern mattress is a bit too firm, trying to sleep on a literal rock would quickly put your complaints into a very different perspective. You feel the coolness of the stone floor beneath your mat, a sharp contrast to the heat that is already beginning to seep through the walls of the small, mud brick house in Thebes. The sun has not yet fully cleared the horizon, but the sky outside the high, narrow window is already turning a pale, dusty violet. You sit up slowly, feeling the stretch in your muscles. There is a deep silence in the room, broken only by the distant, rhythmic sound of a wooden boat oar dipping into the Nile. You stand and walk across the room, your bare feet making a soft, dry sound against the smooth plaster. You reach for a linen tunic, the fabric feeling slightly rough and crisp against your skin. It has been washed in the river and dried in the intense heat, leaving it smelling like sun-baked flax. As you pull the garment over your head, you catch a glimpse of your reflection in a polished bronze mirror resting on a low wooden stand. The surface is slightly warped and has a warm, golden tint, turning your face into a soft, focused version of yourself. It is basically the ancient version of a low-resolution video call, where everyone looks slightly better, because you can't see any of the pores. You look at your eyes in the bronze reflection. They are bare and unprotected, looking small and vulnerable in the growing light. This is the first task of the morning, more important than breakfast or checking the harvest. You move toward a small, beautifully carved wooden chest sitting in the corner of the room. The wood is dark cedar, imported from the distant mountains of Lebanon, and it gives off a faint, spicy aroma whenever the lid is lifted. You kneel before the chest, the wood feeling smooth under your fingertips. This box is your treasure chest, holding the tools that bridge the gap between the human world and the divine. Inside, nestled in small compartments lined with soft scraps of linen, are your cosmetic jars. You reach for a small jar made of creamy white alabaster. The stone is cool and translucent, glowing softly in the dim morning light. It feels heavy and substantial in your hand, a tiny vault for a precious substance. You unscrew the lid, which fits so perfectly that it makes a tiny, satisfying sound of air escaping. Inside is a deep, forest green powder. This is malachite, a copper ore that has been ground down into a dust so fine it feels like silk between your fingers. It is the color of the Nile after a heavy rain, vibrant and full of life. Historians still argue whether the green malachite was used more for its supposed healing properties or its association with the goddess Hathor, but to you it is simply the color of protection. Next to the green is a taller, slender jar made of dark, polished hematite. It is cold to the touch and heavy as a lead weight. This jar holds the black coal, the most iconic element of your daily ritual. This powder is galena, a lead-based mineral that sparkles with tiny, microscopic glints of silver. You know that without this dark mask, the sun will spend the next 12 hours trying to burn your retinas into crisps. It is a mainstream historical fact that both men and women in all levels of society wore this eyeliner, not just to look like royalty, but to act as a physical barrier against the blinding glare of the Egyptian sun. It worked like the black grease paint modern football players smear under their eyes, absorbing the light before it could bounce into your pupils. You also find a small, flat palette made of gray schist. It is shaped like a swimming fish, a common design that feels comfortable in the palm of your hand. You take a small bronze spatula, its tip worn smooth from years of use, and begin to prepare your materials. You place a small amount of the black galena powder onto the center of the stone fish. The powder is dry and flighty, ready to blow away with the slightest breeze, so you must add a binder. You reach for a tiny vial of oil, perhaps pressed from moringa seeds or animal fat. You add a single drop, watching as the clear liquid hits the dark powder and begins to transform it. The struggle of getting the consistency right is the original morning frustration, long before the invention of tangled charging cables. If you add too much oil, the coal will run down your face like a sad clown in a thunderstorm. If you add too little, it will be scratchy and dry, irritably poking at your eyelids all day. You use the spatula to mix the two together, moving in slow, circular motions. You can hear the faint, gritty sound of the minerals being worked into the oil, a tiny rasping noise that is oddly meditative in the quiet room. Gradually, the mixture turns into a thick, glossy paste that catches the light like obsidian. As you work, a small ginger cat wanders into the room, its tail held high like a furry mast. It weaves between your legs, its fur soft and warm, before settling down on a patch of floor where the first beam of sunlight is just beginning to hit. The cat watches you with its wide, golden eyes, which are already naturally rimmed with dark fur. You can't help but feel a little envious. The cat woke up with a perfect wing and didn't have to spend 10 minutes grinding rocks to get it. You realize that your natural morning glow is currently mostly just a layer of fine desert dust and sleepiness. So you return to your task. You pick up a coal stick, a slender tool made of polished ebony. One end is slightly bulbous, designed to hold just the right amount of the black paste. You dip the stick into the mixture on your palette, swirling it gently until the tip is evenly coated. Now comes the moment of truth. You lean closer to the bronze mirror, trying to find the best angle for the light. You have to keep your hand incredibly steady, which is difficult when you haven't even had a sip of water yet. You hold your breath, the world outside fading away, as you focus entirely on the thin line of skin just above your lashes. You draw the stick along the upper lid, the cool paste feeling strangely soothing. The galena has a natural cooling effect on the skin, a quirky tidbit that most people forget. It wasn't just a color, but a refrigerated treat for tired eyes. In fact, modern science has found that the low levels of lead in the galena actually helped stimulate the production of nitric oxide in the skin, which boosted the immune system and helped fight off eye infections caused by the Nile's many flies. So, while putting lead on your face sounds like a terrible idea today, in the context of ancient bacteria, it was practically a high-tech antibiotic. You extend the line outward, creating a long, elegant wing that reaches toward your temple. This isn't just for style. The long line helps to further deflect the sun from the corners of your eyes, where the glare is often the harshest. You repeat the process on the lower lid, connecting the lines at the edges. You look into the mirror and see one eye transformed. It looks larger, more alert, and strangely powerful. Now comes the eternal struggle of humanity, trying to make the second eye match the first. If you mess this up, you can't just grab a makeup wipe. You have to use a piece of linen dipped in oil and start the whole messy process over. You take a deep breath and begin the second eye. The room is getting warmer now, the air starting to vibrate with the coming heat. You can hear the sounds of the city waking up. The clatter of pottery, the calls of neighbors, the distant braying of a donkey. Your hand stays steady, and the second line mimics the first with surprising accuracy. You feel a small surge of triumph. You haven't just put on makeup, you have put on your armor for the day. You have created a barrier between yourself and the elements, a ritual that has been performed by your ancestors for thousands of years. You look at the green malachite on the palette. Some days you apply a layer of green above the black, a vibrant stripe that mimics the lush vegetation of the riverbank against the dark earth. Today, you decide to keep it simple, using just a touch of the green on the inner corners of your eyes to honor the morning sun. The malachite feels different than the galena. It is grittier, more earth-like. As you apply it, you think about where these stones came from. They weren't bought at a store. They were pulled from the deep, dangerous veins of the earth in the eastern desert. You imagine the miners working in the heat, chipping away at the rock to find these tiny pockets of color. Every jar in your chest represents hours of labor, miles of travel, and the immense value of the earth's hidden gifts. You wipe the excess paste from your Kohl stick using a scrap of clean linen, the fabric staining dark and greasy. You carefully close the jars, the alabaster and hematite feeling heavy and solid as you return them to their designated spots in the cedar box. You close the lid of the chest, and the spicy scent of wood lingers in the air for a moment before the smell of the morning cooking fires takes over. You take one last look in the mirror. You don't see a fashion victim. You see a person prepared. The dark lines around your eyes, give you a look of intense focus, a steady gaze that can meet the sun without flinching. You feel a sense of calm, the morning ritual having centered your mind and prepared your body for the work ahead. The cat stands up, stretches its long body into a perfect arch, and walks toward the door, expecting you to follow. You follow the cat out into the main room, where the light is now a bright, burning gold. The floor is warm now, and the air is filled with the sound of the world in motion. You grab a small bowl of emmer wheat porridge, the grain coarse and chewy, flavored with a bit of honey and a few dried dates. It is a simple meal, but it gives you the energy you need. As you eat, you look out the door toward the Nile. The river is a shimmering ribbon of blue and silver, reflecting the sky with a blinding intensity. You squint, but the dark kohl around your eyes does its job, softening the edges of the light and allowing you to see the white sails of the boats as they glide across the water. You think about the day ahead, the heat of the fields or the bustle of the market, and you feel a quiet confidence. You are part of a long line of people who have stood in this exact spot, doing these exact things, finding beauty and protection in the minerals of the earth. The ritual of the eyeliner is a small thing, a few minutes of grinding and painting, but it connects you to the gods, to the land, and to the very rhythm of life in the valley. As you finish your breakfast, you feel the first bead of sweat roll down your neck. The cool of the morning is officially over. The world is bright and loud and demanding, but beneath the dark lines of your kohl, your eyes are cool and steady. You are ready to face the day, protected by the black and the green, the stone and the oil. You step out of the house and into the sunlight, the heat pressing against you like a physical weight, and you begin your walk toward the river. The path is dusty, and the fine silt of the Nile rises in small clouds with every step. You pass neighbors who are also emerging from their homes, their eyes similarly rimmed with dark kohl. There is a silent acknowledgement in the way you look at each other, a shared understanding of the sun's power and the necessity of the mask. You see a group of children running toward the water, their small faces painted with messy, thick lines of black, their parents having ensured they are protected before they even began their play. You reach the edge of the water, where the mud is soft and cool between your toes. You watch the water, carriers filling their heavy clay jars, their muscles rippling under the sun. Everyone here is part of the same great machine, fueled by the river and watched over by the sun. You take a moment to breathe in the scent of the water, a mix of life and decay, of growth and ancient history. Your eyes feel safe behind their dark borders, a small sanctuary of shade in a world of fire. You realize that without this simple ritual, the beauty of the Nile would be a painful blur, a bright white void that would eventually take your sight. Instead, you can see every ripple in the water, every reed swaying in the breeze, and every bird circling high above in the endless blue. You feel a deep sense of gratitude for the stones in your chest and the steady hand that applied them. The day is long and the work is hard, but you are armed with the secrets of the earth. You walk forward into the heat, the dark lines of your eyes steady and unblinking, as the story of the day begins to unfold in the heart of the ancient valley. The heat begins to shimmer over the horizon, creating illusions of water where there is only sand. You walk past the great stone pylons of a nearby temple, their surfaces carved with stories of gods and kings. Even the statues of the pharaohs are painted with the same dark kohl, their stone eyes forever shielded from the glare of the eternal sun. It is a reminder that in this land, even the gods need protection. You feel a connection to those stone giants, a shared humanity that bridges the gap between the mortal and the divine. You continue your journey, your feet finding the familiar rhythm of the path. The morning ritual, now a part of your very being as you move deeper into the light of the Egyptian day. The sun climbs higher, and the shadows begin to shrink, pulling back toward the walls and the trees, as if hiding from the intensity of the light. You find a spot of shade under a sycamore fig tree, its wide leaves providing a brief respite from the burning sky. You sit for a moment, letting your breathing slow. You reach up and touch the skin near your eye, feeling the dry, slightly waxy texture of the kohl. It hasn't budged, despite the heat and the dust. It is a faithful companion, a silent guardian that will stay with you until the stars return to the sky. You close your eyes for a second, feeling the coolness of the galena against your lids, and you listen to the song of the river as it flows toward the sea, carrying the dreams and the history of 1,000 generations. The green ribbon of the Nile begins to fade behind you as you turn your back on the cool, mud-slicked banks and head toward the rising sun. The transition from the black land, with its fertile soil and predictable rhythms, to the red land of the desert is a shift you feel in your very bones. The air loses its damp, vegetal sweetness and becomes a dry, searing weight that tastes of dust and ancient, sun-baked stone. You are walking alongside a small caravan. The rhythmic sound of your footsteps, joined by the soft, complaining grunts of the donkeys, carrying the empty wicker baskets. These donkeys are the unsung heroes of the cosmetic trade, though they seem to possess a personality that is roughly 60% stubbornness and 40% pure judgment. You find yourself wondering if the donkey thinks your quest for eyeliner is as ridiculous as its quest to stop every 5 minutes to investigate a particularly unappealing patch of dry scrub. As you move deeper into the eastern desert, the landscape transforms into a jagged world of ochre cliffs and deep, shadowed wadis. The ground beneath your sandals is no longer soft silt, but a mixture of sharp flint and fine, golden sand that finds its way into every crevice of your clothing. It is a mainstream historical fact that the ancient Egyptian state organized massive, sophisticated expeditions into these harsh environments, sometimes involving thousands of workers, soldiers, and specialists, all to retrieve the minerals that defined their culture. You aren't just out here for a casual stroll. You are part of a grand machine designed to pull beauty and protection out of the most inhospitable places on earth. If you think your commute to the office is a struggle, imagine walking for 3 days into a literal furnace, just to find the right shade of smoky gray for your eyelids. The heat is a constant companion, pressing against your skin like a warm, heavy blanket that you can't kick off. You find yourself missing the soft, rhythmic hum of the wind through the papyrus stalks, replaced here by a silence so profound it feels like a physical presence. Occasionally, a hawk circles high above, a tiny speck of dark feathers against the blinding blue of the sky, watching your slow progress through the canyons. You stop to take a drink from your water skin. the leather warm and smelling of pitch. The water is lukewarm and tastes of the container, but it is the most precious thing in the world at this moment. You look at the rugged peaks ahead, knowing that somewhere in that labyrinth of stone are the veins of galena you seek. The search for galena, the lead ore that becomes your black coal, takes you toward the region of Gebel El Zait, the mountain of oil. The name comes from the natural petroleum seepages in the area, which give the air a strange, chemical tang that mixes with the scent of hot rock. You begin to look for specific markers in the geology, the subtle shifts in color that indicate a mineral-rich vein. Historians still argue whether these ancient miners used advanced geological knowledge or simply relied on generations of trial and error to locate the best deposits. But as you scan the cliffside, it feels like a bit of both. You are looking for a weightiness in the stone, a certain metallic sheen that distinguishes the galena from the surrounding limestone. You find a promising spot where the cliff has been weathered away, revealing a dark, sparkling seam. You pick up a copper chisel, the metal feeling hot and heavy in your hand, and a stone mallet. There is no air conditioning out here, obviously, and the only amenities provided by the mining camp are a choice between sitting on a sharp rock or a slightly less sharp rock. You begin to work, the rhythmic sound of metal striking stone echoing through the narrow canyon. It is a slow, methodical process. You aren't trying to smash the mountain. You are trying to coax the treasure out of its grip. Every strike sends a small puff of gray dust into the air, coating your arms and face until you look like a statue coming to life. There is a quirky tidbit, often discussed by those who study the more mystical side of Egyptology, suggesting that the miners believed these minerals were actually the bones of the gods, or that they possessed a magnetic hum that could be felt by those sensitive enough to hear it. You don't hear a hum, exactly, but there is a strange satisfaction when a chunk of the galena finally breaks free. It is remarkably heavy for its size, a dense, silvery, gray cube that shimmers with a crystalline light. You turn it over in your hand, feeling its cold, metallic weight. This is the raw material of your vision. It looks like a piece of the night sky fallen to earth and turned to stone. You place the galena carefully into a linen bag, the fabric instantly becoming stained with dark, metallic streaks. You realize that, for all the effort spent trying to look elegant back in the city, the process of getting there is incredibly messy. You are currently covered in more dirt than a modern toddler after a long day in the mud, but there is a strange pride in it. This dust is the evidence of your labor, a physical connection to the earth's hidden riches. You move on to the next task, finding the green malachite. This requires a different kind of eye and a journey toward the copper, rich areas like the Wadi Magara. The malachite is easier to spot, but harder to reach. It appears as vibrant, swirling veins of emerald and forest green, snaking through the pale sandstone like frozen lightning. It is a stunning contrast to the brown and gold of the desert, a reminder that the earth hides its most beautiful secrets in its darkest corners. You have to climb a steep, crumbling slope to reach a promising outcrop, your sandals slipping on the loose scree. One of the donkeys watches you from below, its ears twitching in what you are certain is a mocking fashion. You ignore the animal and focus on the green stone. The malachite is softer than the galena, but it requires a delicate touch to extract it without shattering the beautiful patterns. You use a smaller tool to carefully pry the green crust from the rock. The color so bright it almost hurts your eyes in the afternoon sun. You imagine the travelers who first saw this color in the desert and thought they had found a patch of living grass in the middle of the wasteland. You fill a second bag with the green stones, the weight of your haul starting to pull at your shoulders. You feel like a successful hunter, though your prey is stationary and made of minerals. By the time you finish your collection, the sun is beginning to sink toward the horizon, casting long, dramatic shadows across the wadi. The intense heat of the day begins to retreat, replaced by a sudden, sharp chill that makes you pull your linen tunic tighter. The desert has no middle ground. It is either trying to bake you or freeze you, with very little time for a comfortable in-between. You lead your donkey back toward the temporary camp, the animal now moving with a bit more enthusiasm, now that the work is done and the prospect of food is near. You walk through the twilight, the sky turning a deep, bruised purple that matches the color of the mountains. The camp is a simple affair, a few low tents made of goat hair and a small fire fueled by dried dung and scrub brush. The smell of the smoke is acrid but strangely comforting, a signal of human presence in the vast, empty wilderness. You sit by the fire, your muscles aching from the day's exertion. You pull out your bags of stone and lay them on a flat rock, the firelight catching the silver glints of the galena and the deep greens of the malachite. They look different in this light, more mysterious, more potent. You think about the journey ahead, the long walk back to the river, where these rough stones will be transformed into something refined and sacred. You share a meal of hard, dry bread and a few shriveled onions with the other members of the expedition. There is very little talking. Everyone is too tired for conversation, and the desert silence encourages a quiet, reflective mood. You look up at the stars, which are incredibly bright and numerous out here, far from the haze of the valley. You realize that the same minerals you have in your bags are reflected in the celestial bodies above. The Egyptians believed that the stars were the eyes of the gods, and in a way, you are gathering the materials to mimic that divine gaze. It's a bit of a stretch, perhaps, but it makes the blisters on your hands feel a little more purposeful. You lie down on your bedroll, the ground hard and uneven beneath you. You find yourself missing the luxury of your wooden headrest back in Thebes, which is a sentence you never thought you would say. You listen to the sounds of the desert night, the wind whistling through the rocks, the occasional shifting of a donkey, and the profound, heavy stillness that lies between. You feel a sense of accomplishment. You have gone to the edge of the world and back to find the ingredients of your identity. You have faced the sun and the stone, and you have come away with a piece of both. As you drift towards sleep, your mind wanders back to the historical debate about who actually worked these mines, while some older theories suggested a workforce of oppressed slaves. More recent findings in worker villages show evidence of well-fed laborers who received medical care and even organized strikes when their supplies were late. It turns out that even 4,000 years ago, people knew their worth and weren't afraid to demand their fair share of bread and beer. You like the idea that you are part of a legacy of skilled, stubborn people who wouldn't take any nonsense, even from a pharaoh. The fire burns low, the embers glowing like tiny fallen stars. You close your eyes, the image of the green malachite still burned into your retinas. You feel the weight of the desert pressing down on you, a vast and ancient force that has seen empires rise and fall like the shifting dunes. You are just a tiny speck in this landscape, a brief flicker of life in a world of stone, but you are carrying the seeds of something beautiful. You sleep deeply, the exhaustion of the journey pulling you down into a dreamless rest, while the donkeys stand guard in the moonlight, their long ears occasionally twitching at the secrets of the wind. The next morning, the camp is alive with the sound of packing. The return journey is always faster, the promise of the river acting like a magnet for both humans and animals. You help load the baskets onto the donkeys, ensuring the mineral bags are nestled securely so they don't bounce against the animals' sides. You take one last look at the mountain of oil, its jagged silhouette sharp against the pale morning sky. You feel a strange sense of kinship with this place now. It is no longer just a hostile wasteland. It is a provider, a source of the raw power you carry in your bags. The walk back is a blur of heat and dust, but your mind is already moving ahead to the grinding stone. You think about the transformation that needs to occur. The rough to the smooth, the rock to the paste. It is a form of alchemy, really. You are taking the hard, unyielding earth and turning it into something that can flow over skin like water. You imagine the first person who looked at a piece of galena and thought, "I should definitely crush this up and put it on my face." It's a leap of faith that has shaped the look of an entire civilization. As you approach the outskirts of the Nile Valley, the air begins to change. It becomes softer, cooler, and carries the scent of life once again. You see the first green sprouts of the riverbank, and the sight is like water to a thirsty soul. You realize that your perspective has shifted. The river is no longer just the place where you live. It is the sanctuary you have earned. You walk with a lighter step, the weight of the minerals now a badge of honor rather than a burden. You pass the first few mud brick houses, their walls painted white to reflect the sun, and you feel the familiar rhythm of the city beginning to take hold of you once more. You reach your home as the sun is beginning its afternoon descent. You are exhausted, covered in a fine layer of red desert dust, and your feet are sore, but you are home. You carefully unload your bags and place them on the floor of your workroom. You take a moment to wash the desert from your hands and face, the cool water from the jar feeling like a miracle. You look at the raw stones one last time before you prepare for the next stage of the ritual. The journey to the desert is over, but the work of the eyeliner is only just beginning. You think about the mainstream idea that the eyeliner was just for vanity, standing there with the dust of the eastern mines still under your fingernails. You know better. Vanity doesn't drive people into the heart of a wasteland to chip away at mountains. This was about something much deeper, a need to connect with the land, to protect the body, and to signal one's place in the cosmic order. It was a commitment. You look at the dark galena and the bright malachite, and you feel a sense of readiness. The stones are here. The desert has given up its treasures. Now it is up to you to turn them into the mask that will face the world tomorrow. The room is quiet now, the shadows lengthening across the floor. You feel a deep, satisfying tiredness, the kind that only comes from meaningful labor. You know that tomorrow you will begin the long, meditative process of grinding these stones into powder, a task that requires patience and focus. But for now, you allow yourself to simply be. You listen to the distant sounds of the Nile, the heartbeat of your world, and you feel the pulse of the desert still vibrating in your veins. You are a bridge between the two, a weaver of the red and the black, preparing to create the lines that define your life. The cat from before finds you again, sniffing at the bags of stone with a curious twitch of its nose. It seems to approve of the new additions to the room, or perhaps it just likes the smell of the distant mountains clinging to your tunic. It curls up near the bags, a small, warm guardian for your hard-won minerals. You smile at the animal, feeling a sense of peace. The journey was long, the work was hard, and the donkeys were difficult, but the minerals are here. The ritual continues, as it always has, and as it always will, as long as the sun rises over the red mountains and the river flows through the black mud. You take a final look at the stones. Their surface is dull now in the fading light, but you know the fire that is hidden inside them. You know the sparkle that will emerge when they are crushed, and the depth of color that will appear when they meet the oil. You are the master of this transformation, the one who brings the desert to the face and the gods to the eyes. With a sigh of contentment, you settle into the quiet of your home, the desert a memory, and the future a shimmering promise of black and green. The afternoon light stretches across your workshop floor, turning the dust motes into tiny, dancing sparks of gold. You are back in your sanctuary, the jars from the desert sitting on a low table, waiting for the transformation to begin. You pull a heavy, rectangular slab of dark basalt toward you. It is cold, dense, and has a slight grain to it that is perfect for what you are about to do. Next to it lies a smaller, rounded hand stone, polished smooth by years of repetitive motion. This is the ancient version of a high-end blender, though it requires a level of physical exertion that makes modern gym memberships look like a gentle nap. You could call it pre-industrial CrossFit, though your only reward is a very sore shoulder and a jar of eye paint, rather than a protein shake. You settle onto a low stool, the woven reeds creaking softly under your weight, and take a deep breath of the air, which now smells of dry stone and the faint, lingering scent of the morning's incense. You take a piece of the raw galena, that silvery, gray cube you carried back from the mountain of oil. It looks so solid, so permanent, like a tiny fragment of a fallen star. You place it in the center of the basalt slab and bring the hand, stone down with a steady, controlled weight. You aren't trying to pulverize it in one go. You are beginning a conversation with the mineral. Your muscles ripple under the thin linen of your sleeves as you apply pressure, moving the hand stone in slow, rhythmic circles. You hear the low, gritty sound of the stone meeting the ore, a deep rasping noise that vibrates through your bones. It is a mainstream historical fact that these grinding slabs were among the most essential tools in an Egyptian household, passed down through generations like a family heirloom. As the galena begins to fracture, it releases a sharp, metallic scent that catches in the back of your throat. Tiny shards fly off, glinting in the sunlight, before being crushed back into the mass. You find yourself drifting into the rhythm of the work, your thoughts slowing down to match the pace of the stone. You think about how strange it is that the hardest rocks on earth can be turned into the softest powders. It's like trying to turn a brick into silk, a task that requires more patience than a cat waiting for a mouse. You realize your arm is already starting to burn, but there is a meditative quality to the soreness. You are stripping away the outer shell of the mountain to find the darkness hidden inside. Historians still argue whether the ancient Egyptians intentionally synthesized specific lead compounds for their health benefits, or if they simply noticed that certain batches worked better than others by pure luck. Recent chemical analysis of ancient Kohl jars has revealed that they weren't just using raw, crushed ore. They were actually performing complex chemical reactions. They would mix lead oxide with water, oil, and salt, then let it sit for weeks to create laurionite and phosgenite. These aren't found naturally in large quantities in Egypt, meaning the people in these mud brick houses were actually world-class chemists masquerading as makeup artists. You are essentially standing in a laboratory, even if your beakers are made of clay and your heat source is just the relentless sun outside your door. You continue the grind, leaning your weight into the stone. The silver chunks are gone now, replaced by a coarse, charcoal-colored grit. You use a small wooden scraper to push the grit back into a pile in the center of the slab. Your hands are already stained a deep, shimmering gray, the fine dust settling into the lines of your palms. It's the kind of mess that would make a modern parent panic about the carpet, but here, it's just the color of a Tuesday. You start the next phase, which is much more delicate. You need to turn this grit into a powder so fine it could float on a breeze. If the powder is too chunky, it will feel like you've rubbed sand into your eyes, which is a look that precisely 0 people in Thebes are going for. You remember that crocodile dung sunscreen someone told you about once? And you find yourself immensely grateful that your current project involves minerals rather than reptilian leftovers. There's a limit to how far one should go for beauty, and you feel that lead ore is a very reasonable compromise compared to the alternative. You rotate the hand stone, using smaller, tighter circles. The sound changes from a harsh rasp to a soft, whispering hiss, like the sound of the Nile lapping against the shore in the middle of the night. The grit is becoming a silt, a dark, velvety substance that seems to absorb the light around it. You stop for a moment to wipe a bead of sweat from your forehead, careful not to leave a giant gray smear across your brow, though you probably fail. The cat from earlier wanders back in, looking at your gray hands with a judgmental tilt of its head. It seems to find the whole process incredibly inefficient, given that it managed to grow its own eyeliner without any manual labor at all. You ignore the feline critique and reach for your jar of malachite. The greenstones are next. You clean the basalt slab with a damp cloth, the dark stains disappearing to reveal the speckled surface of the rock. The malachite is softer, but it's more flighty. As you begin to crush the green stones, a cloud of vibrant, emerald dust rises into the air. It's a stunning color, the kind of green that feels like it belongs in a lush jungle rather than a desert. The malachite powder is grittier than the galena, with a texture that feels almost like very fine sugar. You have to be even more careful with the pressure here, to avoid losing the pigment to the wind. This green powder was often associated with the field of Malachite, a mythical place of eternal life and vegetation. By wearing it, you aren't just decorating your face. You are literally painting yourself with the promise of rebirth. It's a lot of pressure for a bit of crushed rock, but the Egyptians were never ones for small, simple meanings. Everything had to be tied to the cosmos, the gods, or the afterlife. It's the ancient equivalent of refusing to buy a coffee unless the beans were roasted by a monk on a mountain. Everything needs a story to be worth the effort. After hours of grinding, your shoulders are screaming for a break, and your workshop looks like a chimney sweep had a very colorful party. You have two piles of powdered, a deep, shimmering black and a vibrant, earthy green. Now comes the part that requires the soul of a chef and the precision of a jeweler. You need to bind these powders into a paste. You reach for a small ceramic bowl containing moringa oil. It's a clear, slightly yellowish liquid that smells faintly of nuts and warm earth. This oil is prized for its ability to stay fresh in the heat, which is vital when your refrigerator is just a shady corner of the room. You add the oil drop by drop to the black galena powder. You use a small bronze spatula to fold the liquid into the dust, much like you would mix flour and water for bread. If you think about it, you're basically making a very dark, very inedible sourdough. You watch as the powder drinks in the oil, changing from a dull gray to a rich, glossy obsidian. The transformation is satisfying to watch, a chemical marriage of the earth and the plant world. You stir it slowly, feeling the resistance of the paste as it thickens. You want it to be smooth enough to glide, but thick enough to stay put. It needs to have the consistency of soft butter left out on a summer day. A quirky tidbit that often surprises people is that sometimes they would add a tiny bit of burnt almond shell or even soot to the mix to deepen the color. But the high-end stuff, the stuff you're making, relies on the mineral's natural brilliance. You can see the tiny, microscopic glints of silver in the black paste, giving it a depth that modern liquid liners often lack. It has a three-dimensional quality, a life of its own. You finish the black coal and move on to the green. For the malachite, you decide to use a bit of animal fat instead of oil. The fat gives the green a heavier, more waxy texture that helps it stick to the upper lids where the sweat tends to gather. As you mix the green paste, you find yourself thinking about the sheer scale of this industry. Every person you saw by the river this morning, every farmer in the field, and every scribe in the temple was wearing some version of this. The demand for these minerals must have been staggering. It wasn't a luxury for the few. It was a necessity for the many. It's fascinating that a civilization could be so unified by a single cosmetic habit. We can't even agree on what kind of bread is the best, yet they managed to get an entire kingdom to agree that putting lid on your eyes was the peak of sensible living. The sun is lower now, casting long, orange bars across the room. You are nearing the end of your task. You have two small alabaster jars waiting to be filled. You use the spatula to carefully scrape the black paste from the bowl and into the first jar. It's a slow process, as the paste is sticky and stubborn. You have to tap the jar against the table to make the coal settle, removing the air bubbles. Each tap makes a solid, muffled sound against the wood. Once the black is tucked away, You do the same with the green. The two jars sit side by side, looking like little treasures. They represent days of travel, hours of physical labor, and a deep knowledge of the earth's chemistry. You look at your hands, which are now a chaotic map of black and green stains. You realize that no matter how much you scrub with sand and water, a bit of this will stay with you for a few days. You are literally wearing your work. It's a strange feeling, being so physically connected to the materials of your life. In the modern world, everything is so separated. We buy a product in a plastic tube and never see the mountain it came from or the hands that crushed it. Here, there is no separation. You are the mountain, you are the hand, and you are the eye that will wear the result. You take a clean piece of linen and wipe down your tools. The basalt slab is stained, but it looks beautiful, a record of the colors it has held. You move the hand, stone back to its resting place. The workshop is quiet now, the frantic energy of the grinding replaced by a heavy, satisfied stillness. You feel a sense of peace. The raw elements of the desert have been tamed and refined. They are no longer just rocks. They are coal. They are ready to be used in the ritual that will protect you from the sun and connect you to the divine. You walk over to the large water basin in the corner and begin the long process of washing your arms. The water turns a cloudy, metallic gray as you scrub. You watch the swirls of color dancing in the basin, a miniature version of the Nile during a storm. The coolness of the water is a relief on your tired muscles. You think about the night ahead and the morning that will follow. You are prepared. Your jars are full, your tools are clean, and your mind is calm. The physical labor of the day has served its purpose, grounding you in the reality of the world while you prepare for the spiritual work of the application. Historians still argue whether the specific shapes of the Kohl jars, often resembling monkeys, lotus buds, or tiny humans, were meant to be playful or if they served a protective magical function. You look at your own jars, simple and elegant in their white alabaster, and you think that perhaps it doesn't matter. The magic is in the substance itself, in the way it transforms the face and the spirit. You feel a deep connection to the thousands of people who have sat in rooms just like this, doing exactly what you have done. It's a chain of human experience that stretches back into the mists of time, a shared rhythm of crushing and mixing and preparing. The cat finally decides you are finished and hops onto the table to investigate the closed jars. It sniffs the lids, its whiskers twitching, before letting out a soft purr. You take this as a sign of ultimate feline approval. You pick up the cat, its fur soft and warm against your chest, and walk toward the door. The sky is a deep, burning pink, the color of a peach left too long in the sun. The heat of the day is finally breaking, and a cool breeze is beginning to stir the palms along the river. You stand there for a moment, breathing in the scent of the evening, feeling the weight of the day's work settling into your bones. You realize that the boring part of the process, the hours of grinding, is actually where the real connection happens. It's easy to put on the paint, but it's the making of it that teaches you respect for the material. You know exactly how much effort went into every smudge of black on your eyelid. You know the cost of the green. It makes the ritual of the morning feel more significant, a moment of gratitude for the earth that provides and the hands that work. You feel a quiet pride in your craftsmanship, a sense of belonging in a world that values the slow and the steady. As the first stars begin to poke through the pink haze of the sky, you head back inside to prepare your evening meal. The jars of coal sit on the table, silent sentinels of your identity. They are more than just makeup. They are a promise of protection for the day to come. You eat your simple dinner of bread and dried fish, the taste of the salt a reminder of the desert you left behind. Your body is tired, but your heart is light. You have turned stone into silk, and in doing so, you have found a small piece of the eternal rhythm of Egypt. The shadows in the house grow long and soft, blurring the edges of the furniture. You find yourself yawning, the rhythmic motion of the day finally catching up with you. You move toward your sleeping mat, the coolness of the floor a welcome sensation. You think about the morning, when you will open those jars and begin the ritual of the eye. You imagine the steady hand, the cool paste, and the dark lines that will define your face. It is a comforting thought, a predictable and beautiful cycle in a world that can often be harsh and unpredictable. You lie down, the wooden headrest supporting you once again. You close your eyes, and for a moment, you can still hear the rhythmic hiss of the stone on the slab. It's a soothing sound, a heartbeat of industry that fades into the background of your consciousness. You feel the presence of the jars on the table, their minerals vibrating with a quiet energy. You are safe. You are prepared. You are part of the story of the Nile, a single line in a grand, ancient poem. And as the night deepens and the world outside grows quiet, you drift into a deep, restful sleep, dreaming of mountains made of silver and rivers made of green. The last thing you feel is the soft weight of the cat settling at the foot of your mat. It's breathing a steady, rhythmic pulse that matches your own. The workshop is dark now, but the jars of coal still catch a faint glimmer of moonlight, their white stone surfaces glowing softly in the dark. They wait for the dawn, just as you do. They are ready to transform you once again, to bring the power of the earth to your eyes and the protection of the gods to your soul. But for now, there is only the silence, the coolness of the night, and the gentle drift of history as it carries you toward another sunrise in the land of the pharaohs. The process of grinding isn't just about the powder. It's about the preparation of the self. By the time the jars are filled, you have spent hours focusing on a single task, clearing your mind of the clutter of the day. You have engaged with the physical world in a way that is both grueling and grounding. It's a form of prayer, a manual labor that elevates the spirit. You realize that this is why the ritual has lasted for millennia. It isn't just about how you look to others, it's about how you feel within yourself. You feel strong, capable, and connected. You are ready for whatever the gods decide to throw at you tomorrow, because you have the strength of the basalt slab and the brilliance of the galena in your corner. You take one final, deep breath. The scent of the moringa oil still faint on your skin. It's a clean, honest smell, the scent of work and care. You let your muscles go limp, feeling the tension drain out of your shoulders and down into the earth. The world outside continues its slow, nocturnal rotation, but inside your small house, there is a perfect, dark stillness. You are tucked away in the heart of history, a participant in a ritual that transcends time. And as you finally slip into the deep waters of sleep, You carry with you the knowledge that you are whole, you are protected, and you are beautiful in the eyes of the stars. The morning light returns with a soft, persistent glow that creeps across your reed mat, nudging you awake with the warmth of a new day. You find yourself reaching for the small, carved wooden chest before you've even fully shook off the weight of sleep. The ritual of the application is about to begin, and it requires a level of focus that is hard to muster when your brain still feels like it's wrapped in layers of unwashed linen. You open the chest, the spicy scent of cedar rising to meet you like a familiar friend. Inside, the jars you filled yesterday are waiting, their white alabaster surfaces cool and smooth under your fingertips. You pull out the jar of black coal, feeling its comforting weight, and then you reach for the most important tool in your arsenal, the coal stick. This particular stick is made of polished ebony, a wood so dark and dense it feels more like stone than plant. It is slender and tapered, with one end slightly thicker than the other to hold the precious paste. It's a mainstream historical fact that these sticks weren't just simple twigs. They were often highly decorated, made from ivory, bronze, or even glass, and were considered prized possessions that people took with them into their tombs for the afterlife. You turn the ebony stick over in your hand, feeling its balance. It has a tiny carving of a lotus bud at the top, a small detail that makes the act of putting on makeup feel like a sacred ceremony. You realize that in a world without high-definition cameras, this little stick is your primary tool for self-definition. You move toward your bronze mirror, which is resting on a low tripod. The metal is cool to the touch, and you use a scrap of linen to buff away a thin layer of oxidation until your reflection stares back at you. The mirror doesn't give you a perfect, sharp image. Instead, it offers a warm, golden version of reality that hides minor flaws while highlighting the depth of your gaze. It's basically the original beauty filter, making everyone look like they've been lit by a permanent sunset. You look at your eyes, which feel heavy and a little red from the dust of the grinding workshop. This is the moment where the art begins. You have to be steady, patient, and precise. If you mess this up now, all that work in the desert and at the grinding stone will be for nothing. You dip the tip of the ebony stick into the jar of black coal. The paste is thick and glossy, clinging to the wood with a stubborn, waxy grip. You don't need much. A single, well-placed bead of color is enough to transform your entire look. You hold the stick between your thumb and forefinger, much like a scribe would hold a reed pen. There is a specific tension in your hand, a balance between strength and lightness. You take a deep breath, letting the air out slowly as you lean closer to the mirror. The world outside your small room fades away. The distant calls of the market, the rustle of the palms, the smell of the river, all of it vanishes as you focus on the thin line of skin at the base of your lashes. You begin with the inner corner of your left eye. You place the stick gently against the skin, the cool paste sending a tiny shiver of awareness through your eyelid. You don't just draw the line, you guide it. You move the stick in one long, continuous motion, following the natural curve of your eye. The coal glides over the skin like silk on water, leaving behind a trail of deep, midnight black. It feels soothing, a physical relief against the dryness of the morning air. You realize that the struggle of the modern winged liner is actually an ancient inheritance. You are fighting the same battle that people fought 4,000 years ago, the battle against a shaky hand and a poorly timed blink. Historians still argue whether the thick, heavy application of Kohl was a sign of mourning or simply the peak of high fashion during the New Kingdom. Some believe that the length of the wing indicated your social status, with longer, more dramatic lines belonging to the elite who didn't have to worry about sweat ruining their look during a day of manual labor. You decide to go for a medium wing today, long enough to be elegant, but short enough that it won't end up near your ear by midday. You extend the line outward, tilting the stick slightly to create a sharp, clean point. It's a delicate maneuver, like trying to thread a needle while riding a donkey. One wrong move, and you'll have a black smudge that looks like you've been punched by a very fashionable ghost. You finish the upper lid and move to the lower one. This is the part that really provides the protection from the sun. You pull the skin of your cheek down slightly with your free hand, creating a flat surface. You run the stick along the waterline. The sensation strange, but not unpleasant. The galena has a natural cooling property that makes your eye feel instantly more awake. It's a quirky tidbit that some Kohl sticks were actually designed with tiny, serrated edges to help comb the lashes as the paint was applied, though you prefer your smooth ebony version. You connect the lower line to the upper one at the outer corner, completing the frame. You step back and look at yourself in the bronze mirror. One eye is now a dark, powerful focus of energy, while the other is still pale and unfinished. You look a bit like a half-completed statue, a work in progress. Now comes the real test, the second eye. This is where the true masters are separated from the amateurs. It's one thing to get one eye perfect, but getting the second one to match is a feat of engineering that would make the pyramid builders proud. You could call them sisters, not twins. But in Thebes, people have high standards for symmetry. You don't want to walk into the market looking lopsided, as if your face is slowly sliding off to one side. You repeat the process, trying to mimic the exact angle and pressure you used on the first eye. Your hand is a little more tired now, and the mirror seems to have caught a stray beam of light that makes you squint. You hold your breath again, the silence of the room amplifying the tiny, wet sound of the stick moving across your skin. You feel the cool weight of the paste. You guide the wing outward, hoping for the best. When you finally finish and look in the mirror, you let out a sigh of relief. They aren't perfect. Nothing in this life is, but they are close enough to pass for a person of taste and discipline. You decide to add a touch of the green malachite above the black on your upper lids. You use a different stick for this, one made of polished bronze that has a flatter, spatula-like tip. The green paste is thicker, more like a clay, and it requires a bit more effort to spread. You pat it on gently, creating a vibrant stripe of color that mimics the lush greenery of the Nile banks. The contrast between the black and the green is striking, a visual representation of the land itself, the dark, fertile soil meeting the bright, living plants. You realize that your face has become a map of your environment, a walking tribute to the elements that sustain you. There is a certain meditative quality to this final stage of the ritual. You aren't just putting on a face. For others, you are centering yourself. The act of looking into your own eyes for 10 minutes every morning forces a kind of self-reflection that is rare in a busy world. You see the person you were yesterday, the person you are now, and the person you hope to be. You think about the mountain of oil and the grinding stone, and you feel the continuity of the process. The eyeliner isn't something that happened to you. It's something you created through labor and intent. It makes the protection it offers feel more earned, more real. As you finish the green, you notice a small bit of black coal has migrated to the side of your nose. You don't panic. You reach for a small jar of almond oil and a clean scrap of linen. You dip the cloth into the oil and gently dab at the stray mark. The oil dissolves the coal instantly, leaving the skin clean and soft. You find yourself wondering if the ancient Egyptians had makeup hacks that they shared over morning porridge. If you smudge your coal, just use a bit of nut oil and pretend it never happened. It's a comforting thought, realizing that human clumsiness is a universal constant, regardless of the millennium. You spend a few more moments perfecting the lines, using the tip of a fine needle to sharpen the edges of the wings. This is the level of detail that separates a casual wearer from a true devotee of the craft. You look at the way the light catches the microscopic silver glints in the galena. It gives your eyes a depth and a sparkle that feels almost supernatural. You understand now why people believed these minerals were the bones of the gods. There is a power in them, a brilliance that transcends the dusty, mud-brick reality of daily life. You feel like you could look the sun in the eye and not blink. You feel powerful. You carefully clean your coal sticks, wiping away the excess paste with a cloth until the wood and bronze shine. You place them back in their spots in the cedar chest, nesting them next to the jars. You close the lid, the soft thud of the wood signaling the end of the ritual. The room feels different now. The air is warmer, the light is brighter, and you are no longer just a person waking up. You are a person prepared. You stand up and stretch, feeling the linen of your tunic shift against your skin. Your eyes feel cool and protected, as if you've put on a pair of invisible, soothing spectacles. You remember that quirky tidbit about the god Bez. Some coal sticks were carved with his image, a fierce, bearded dwarf who was a protector of the home and of beauty. He was there to scare away the bad luck and the biting flies. You don't have Bez on your stick, but you feel his presence in the weight of the ritual. You are armored against the world. You walk out of your bedroom and into the main living area where the cat is waiting for you. It looks up, its golden eyes blinking slowly, and you swear you see a flicker of recognition. It knows you are ready. It knows the mask is on. You head toward the doorway, pausing for a moment to look out at the city. Thebes is fully awake now. The streets are filling with people, a sea of white linen and dark, rimmed eyes. You see a neighbor across the way, a woman who is also adjusting her shawl, her eyes painted with the same long, elegant wings. You share a brief, silent nod of acknowledgement. You are both part of the same great tradition, both wearing the same protective colors. It creates a sense of community, a shared visual language that binds the people of the Nile together. You aren't just an individual. You are a part of a culture that values the harmony of the black and the green. As you walk down the street, you notice how the light changes. The glare of the sun is starting to become intense, reflecting off the whitewashed walls of the houses. In the past, this light would have made you squint and look at the ground, but today your eyes remain open and steady. The dark coal absorbs the harshest rays, creating a soft, shaded perimeter around your vision. It's a mainstream historical fact that this was the primary reason for the makeup's popularity among all classes, from the lowliest field hand to the pharaoh himself. It was a functional necessity in a land of fire. You find yourself marveling at how a bit of crushed rock and oil can change your entire experience of the world. You pass a group of children playing in the shadow of a temple wall. Their mother has painted thick, messy circles of coal around their eyes, giving them the appearance of tiny, serious owls. They run and laugh, the heat not seemingly bothering them at all. You realize that this ritual starts at birth and continues until death. It is the first thing a mother does for her child, and the last thing a priest does for the departed. It is the thread that runs through the entire tapestry of Egyptian life. You feel a deep sense of pride in being a part of that thread. You aren't just wearing makeup, you are wearing history. Historians still argue whether the specific ingredients of the coal, the lead, the copper, the oils, were chosen for their symbolic meanings or for their literal effectiveness against the parasites of the Nile. It was probably both. In a world where the physical and the spiritual were so tightly interwoven, you couldn't have one without the other. The lead that fought off the bacteria was also the silver of the stars. The oil that kept the skin from cracking was also the essence of the life-giving trees. It's a beautiful, holistic way of looking at the world, where every action has multiple layers of meaning. You think about this as you reach the market, the sights and sounds of the city swirling around you. The market is a sensory overload. The smell of roasted meat, the piles of colorful spices, the clatter of copper pots being hammered into shape. You move through the crowd with a sense of calm. Your eyes are your sanctuary. Behind the dark lines of the coal, you feel a certain detachment, a focus that allows you to see everything without being overwhelmed by it. You find yourself noticing the small details, the way a merchant's eyes crinkle when he laughs, the specific shade of blue on a bead of faience, the rhythmic motion of a weaver's hands. The coal has sharpened your vision, not just physically, but mentally. You buy a handful of dried figs, their sweetness a sharp contrast to the salty air. As you eat, you look up at the great pylons of the temple, their surfaces carved with the figures of the gods. They, too, wear the coal. Their stone eyes are rimmed with the same black lines, their gaze fixed on the eternal. You feel a strange sense of kinship with those giants. You are doing what they do. You are seeing what they see. It's a heady feeling, a reminder that even in your small, mortal life, you are connected to the infinite. You finish your figs and continue your walk, the weight of the day's work feeling lighter with every step. You think about the crocodile dung sunscreen again and let out a small, sleepy chuckle. You've come a long way from the desert mines and the grinding slab. You've mastered the stick, you've faced the mirror, and you've emerged as a person of focus and beauty. The ritual is complete, and the results are written on your face for all to see. You feel a sense of completion, a closing of the circle. The raw minerals have become a part of you, a shield against the sun and a bridge to the divine. You are ready for whatever the day brings, armed with the secrets of the earth and the steady hand of your ancestors. The sun continues its slow climb toward the zenith, and the shadows begin to shrink once again. You find a spot of shade near a stone fountain, the sound of the trickling water a cooling presence in the heat. You sit for a moment, letting the world go by. You touch the corner of your eye, checking the wing. It's still there, sharp and dark. It hasn't smudged or faded. It is a faithful guardian. You close your eyes, feeling the coolness of the paste against your lids, and you listen to the heartbeat of the city. You are part of the rhythm, part of the story, a single line of Kohl in the great ancient book of Egypt. You realize that the boring parts of the process, the long walks, the heavy grinding, were all leading to this moment of quiet confidence. Without the effort, the result wouldn't mean as much. It's the labor that gives the beauty its value. You feel a deep satisfaction in that knowledge. You've done the work, and now you get to wear the reward. You feel a sense of peace settling over you, a calm that matches the steady gaze of the statues in the temple. The day is yours, the sun is yours, and the story is yours. You are the master of the Kohl stick, and your eyes are open to the wonder of the world. As you sit by the fountain, you notice a young scribe, in training passing by, his wooden palette tucked under his arm. He looks at you, his own eyes rimmed with a thick, functional layer of black, and he gives a small, respectful nod. You return the gesture, a silent exchange between two people who understand the importance of the line. Whether it's the line of a hieroglyph on papyrus or the line of Kohl on an eyelid, the principle is the same. It is about order, clarity, and intent. You are both writers in your own way, marking the world with your presence. The water in the fountain sparkles in the sun, sending tiny reflections dancing across the stone walls. You watch them for a while, your mind drifting through the history of your people. You think about the first person who ever picked up a piece of galena and felt its weight. You think about the thousands of hands that have held Kohl sticks since then. You are a link in that chain, a living continuation of a ritual that has defied time. It's a heavy thought, but it feels light when you're wearing the protection of the gods. You stand up, feeling refreshed, and head back into the flow of the city, your eyes dark and steady, ready to face the brilliance of the Egyptian noon. The sun has reached its highest point in the sky, a burning white disk that seems to pin the world to the desert floor. You find yourself walking through the outskirts of a bustling construction site, where massive blocks of limestone are being hauled toward a rising temple. The air is thick with the scent of pulverized stone and the salty sweat of hundreds of laborers. In this intense noonlight, the landscape would usually be a painful, blinding blur, yet your vision remains remarkably clear and sharp. You notice that every worker, from the master architect to the strongest laborer pulling the thick hemp ropes, wears the same heavy, dark mask of Kohl. It is a mainstream historical fact that this eyeliner was a vital piece of personal protective equipment, shielding the eyes from the abrasive dust of the quarries and the relentless, reflected heat of the stone. Without this dark boundary, the constant exposure to fine grit and glare would quickly lead to sandy eye or permanent scarring of the cornea. You find a patch of shade beneath a mud brick wall, resting your back against the cool, rough surface. A small cloud of flies hums nearby, drawn to the moisture of the irrigation ditches. You watch as one of these persistent insects zips toward your face, only to veer away at the last second as it nears the dark, treated skin around your eyes. It is almost as if you have an invisible shield. You recall a quirky tidbit you once heard from an old healer in the village, who claimed that the bitter scent of the galena and the specific oils used in the paste act as a natural repellent to the flies that carry the eye sickness. These insects are more than just a nuisance. They are the couriers of infection, but they seem to find the metallic tang of your makeup utterly unappealing. You realize that your morning ritual wasn't just an act of vanity, or even just a way to block the sun. It was your daily dose of preventive medicine, a silent doctor sitting in a jar on your vanity. Historians still argue whether the medical efficacy of these lead-based minerals was a lucky byproduct of aesthetic choices or a highly intentional pharmaceutical tradition developed over thousands of years. As you sit in the shade, you can feel the coal doing its work. There is a distinct cooling sensation, a faint tingle that counters the burning heat of the air. This isn't just your imagination. The chemical properties of the galena and the malachite are actively interacting with your skin. You think about the crocodile dung sunscreen that some travelers talk about with a shudder, and you feel a renewed appreciation for your mineral-rich paste. Your eyeliner is essentially a slow-release antibacterial treatment. Modern research has shown that the lead salts in the coal stimulate the skin to produce nitric oxide, which boosts the immune system's ability to fight off the bacteria that thrive in the damp heat of the Nile. You are wearing a high-tech lab result on your face, disguised as a beautiful, smoky wing. The heaviness of the noon hour makes your eyelids feel sleepy, and you let them flutter closed for a moment. Even with your eyes shut, the dark coal provides a second layer of shade, a soft barrier that prevents the bright light from penetrating your lids. You think about the ingredients you mixed into the paste yesterday: the moringa oil, the frankincense resin, and perhaps a pinch of ground fennel seeds. Each one was chosen for its ability to soothe and protect. The oil keeps the delicate skin around your eyes from cracking in the dry desert wind, while the resin acts as a mild antiseptic. It is a holistic approach to health, where the line between looking good and staying alive is blurred into a single, elegant gesture. You feel a deep sense of security, knowing that you have equipped yourself with the best tools your world has to offer. You remember a time during the inundation season when the river rose high and the air became thick with moisture and biting gnats. Everyone in the house had developed itchy, swollen eyes, except for you. You had been diligent with your coal, applying it thick and wide every morning, even when you didn't plan on leaving the house. You realize now that you weren't just being fashionable, you were maintaining a sterile barrier. The copper in the green malachite is particularly effective against fungi and certain parasites that lurk in the stagnant pools left by the receding river. You are essentially a walking apothecary, carrying the secrets of the earth in the lines of your face. It makes the long walk to the desert mines and the hours of grinding at the basalt slab feel like a small price to pay for such profound protection. The rhythm of the city continues around you, a steady pulse of hammers and voices and the distant splash of water. You watch a group of scribes walking toward the house of life, their eyes rimmed with a particularly fine, deep black coal. Their work requires them to stare at pale papyrus for hours under the harsh sun, a task that would be impossible without the glare, reduction of their makeup. You find yourself admiring the way the light catches the silver glints in their eyeliner, a subtle sparkle that hints at the mineral's raw power. It is a beauty that serves a purpose, a grace that is grounded in the hard reality of biology. You stand up, feeling refreshed by your brief rest, and continue your walk through the city, your vision clear and your eyes comfortable in their dark, medicinal frame. As you pass a local apothecary's stall, the air is filled with a different kind of scent, the sharp, medicinal aroma of crushed herbs and dried animal parts. You see jars labeled with instructions for treating the white in the eye, or the dimming of the sight. Many of these recipes call for the same galena and malachite you use every morning, mixed with honey or the milk of a woman who has borne a male child. It is a reminder that your eyeliner is part of a larger system of healing, a daily ritual that connects you to the great physician who watches over the land. You realize that by wearing your kohl, you are participating in a communal act of health, a shared commitment to keep the sickness of the marsh at bay. The sun begins its slow descent toward the western horizon, and the light turns from a harsh white to a warm, buttery gold. The heat is still intense, but the shadows are starting to stretch out from the walls and trees. You walk along the riverbank, where the breeze carries a hint of coolness from the water. You notice a small child sitting by the water's edge, their face painted with a thick, protective circle of kohl that covers half their cheek. Their mother is nearby, washing linen in the river. She looks up and smiles, her own eyes a masterpiece of black and green. This shared visual language is a comfort, a sign that you are all looking out for one another. You are all part of the same story, a story of survival and beauty in a land of extremes. You think about the fringe theory, that the specific shape of the kohl wing was designed to mimic the anatomy of the human eye's tear duct, helping to channel sweat away from the pupil. While you don't know if that's true, you can feel the way the waxy paste catches the beads of moisture before they can sting your eyes. It is a practical, physical solution to the problems of the environment. You feel a quiet sense of triumph, a realization that your ancestors were masters of adaptation. They didn't just endure the desert, they thrived in it, turning the very rocks of the earth into a shield for their most precious scents. Your eyes are your window to the world, and you have draped them in the finest, most protective curtains imaginable. The walk back to your neighborhood is slow and peaceful. You find yourself noticing the colors of the evening, the deep blue of the water, the vibrant green of the palms, the dusty red of the cliffs. Everything seems more vivid, more defined. You wonder if the kohl doesn't just protect your sight, but actually enhances it, sharpening the contrast between light and shadow. You feel a sense of clarity, a mental focus that matches the physical sharpness of your vision. The day has been long and hot, but you feel strong and capable. Your eyes are not tired or strained, they are cool and calm, resting in their dark sanctuary. You reach your doorstep just as the first hint of violet appears in the sky, a sign that the day is finally drawing to a close. You step inside your home, the air noticeably cooler than the street outside. You go to your water basin and splash some water on your face, careful not to wash away the coal just yet. The water feels like a miracle on your skin, but you decide to keep the dark lines for a little longer. They have served you well today, and you aren't quite ready to give up their protection. You sit on your mat, the silence of the room a welcome change from the noise of the city. You think about the journey of the coal, from the deep mines of the desert to the grinding stone, to the ebony stick, and finally to your face. It is a journey of transformation, a process of taking the raw and the rough and turning it into the refined and the medicinal. You realize that in your world there is no such thing as just makeup. Every color has a history, every line has a purpose, and every ingredient has a story. You are a part of that complexity, a living vessel for the knowledge of your people. You feel a deep connection to the earth, a sense that you are literally wearing the land on your skin. The galena, the malachite, the moringa oil, these are the gifts of the Nile and the desert, woven together into a mask of health and beauty. You feel a sense of gratitude for these gifts and for the wisdom that taught you how to use them. As the shadows in the room deepen, you allow yourself to relax, your muscles loosening and your breathing slowing down. The cat from the morning wanders back in, its eyes glowing in the twilight. It settles near you, its presence a comforting, familiar weight. You look at the cat and think about how its natural markings inspired the very look you wear. Nature provided the blueprint, and your people refined it into a science. It is a beautiful partnership, a way of living in harmony with the world rather than in opposition to it. You feel a sense of peace, a quiet contentment that comes from knowing you are right where you are supposed to be, doing exactly what you are supposed to do. The ritual of the eyeliner has brought you through another day, and it will be there to greet you again tomorrow. You think about the fringe tidbit that some believe the Kohl was actually used to induce mild trances during long temple ceremonies, the lead interacting with the nervous system in subtle, mystical ways. While you've never felt anything but alert and protected, you like the idea that your makeup has a hidden, magical dimension. It adds a layer of mystery to the mundane, a hint of the divine in the daily routine. Whether it's medicine, magic, or just good fashion, the Kohl is an essential part of who you are. It is your signature, your shield, and your sanctuary. You look toward your wooden chest, knowing that the jars inside are waiting to repeat the cycle. The night is fully here now, and the world outside has grown quiet. You can hear the distant, rhythmic sound of a night bird and the soft rustle of the wind in the thatch. You feel a heavy, pleasant tiredness in your limbs, the kind of exhaustion that comes from a day well spent. You lie back on your mat, the wooden headdress supporting you with its firm, familiar pressure. You close your eyes, and the darkness is absolute and soothing. The Kohl around your eyes feels like a soft, warm weight, a final gesture of protection as you drift toward sleep. You are safe in the heart of the valley, guarded by the minerals of the earth and the wisdom of the ages. You find yourself drifting into a dream of a great, green field where the flowers are made of malachite and the rivers flow with liquid silver. In this world, there is no heat and no flies, only the cool, clear light of 1,000 stars. You walk through this landscape with ease. your eyes wide and unblinking, seeing everything with a clarity that transcends the physical. You realize that this is the field of Malachite the priests talk about, the place of eternal health and rebirth. It is a beautiful, comforting place, and you feel a sense of belonging there. You realize that your daily ritual is a way of preparing for this journey, a way of ensuring that your sight remains sharp enough to see the wonders of the afterlife. As the dream fades, you settle into a deeper, more profound rest. The air in the room is still and cool, the heat of the day a distant memory. You are a link in an ancient chain, a participant in a ritual that has defied the centuries. You have turned the earth into medicine and the light into shadow. You have found beauty in the desert and health in the minerals. You are a master of the Kohl, and your eyes are resting now, preparing for the brilliance of the dawn. You sleep deeply, the silence of the night wrapping around you like a soft, protective blanket, while the stars watch over the valley with their own unblinking, silver-rimmed eyes. The morning will come soon enough, with its tasks and its heat and its requirements for focus. But for now, there is only the peace of the night. You have done everything you needed to do. You have protected your body and your spirit. You have honored the gods and the land. You have lived the story of the Eyeliner, and it is a good story. You let out a long, slow breath, the last of the day's tension leaving your body. You are at rest, tucked away in the cradle of history, while the river flows on and the desert waits for the sun. The jars on your table are silent, but they hold the promise of a new beginning, a new line, and a new day of protection. You imagine the generations of people who will come after you, who will look at your statues and your paintings and wonder why you painted your eyes so dark. They might think it was just for the movies or for the vanity of kings, but you know the truth. You know it was about the flies and the sun and the bacteria and the simple human need to see the world clearly. You smile in your sleep, a secret knowledge shared across the ages. You are the original chemist, the original protector, the original master of the gaze. And as you sink further into the quiet waters of sleep, you carry that pride with you, a small, dark spark of light in the heart of the Egyptian night. The cycle of the day is a perfect loop, a movement from the dark to the light and back again. You have mastered the light by using the dark. You have found the medicine in the stone. You are a bridge between the physical and the spiritual, a creator of beauty and a guardian of health. The ritual of the Kohl is the rhythm of your life, a steady, predictable beat that gives you strength and purpose. You feel a sense of profound unity with the world, a feeling that everything is connected and everything has a place. You are safe. You are whole. You are beautiful. And as the night deepens, you drift into the final, deepest layer of sleep, where the only thing that remains is the soft, steady hum of the eternal river. The long, golden fingers of the sun finally slip below the horizon of the western desert, leaving behind a sky that looks like a bruised plum, deep purple, streaked with veins of orange and pink. As the twilight deepens, the world changes. The red land of the desert is no longer a place of heat and dust. It becomes a vast, silent ocean of shadow. You stand in the doorway of your home, watching the first few stars prick through the darkness like tiny, silver needles. During the day, your Kohl was a shield against the sun and the flies, But as the moon begins its slow climb over the Nile, the purpose of your eyeliner shifts. The night in ancient Egypt is not just a time for sleep. It is a time when the boundary between the world of the living and the world of the unseen becomes thin and porous. You feel a slight chill in the air, a reminder that while the sun god, Ra, has gone to battle the serpent of chaos in the underworld, you are left here in the dark to guard your own small corner of existence. You return to your low table, lighting a small oil lamp made of simple, unglazed clay. The flame is tiny and flickering, casting long, dancing shadows that make the carvings on your wooden furniture seem to move and breathe. You reach for your jars once more, but this time your movements are slower, more deliberate. You aren't just preparing for a walk to the market, you are preparing a prayer. You pick up the Kohl stick, the ebony feeling cool and heavy, and you look into your bronze mirror. The reflection is dim and flickering, giving your face a mysterious, ethereal quality. You look at the dark lines you painted this morning. They are a bit faded now, softened by the sweat and the dust of the day, but the foundation is still there. Tonight, you aren't just going to touch up the black lines, you are going to transform them into the wedjat, the Eye of Horus. It is a mainstream historical fact that the Eye of Horus was one of the most powerful protective symbols in the ancient world, representing healing, sacrifice, and the restoration of order. According to the myths, the god Horus lost his left eye during a titanic struggle with his uncle Set, the god of storms and chaos. If you think your family reunions are awkward, imagine your uncle literally trying to dismantle your face just because he didn't get the throne. Set was basically the original bad roommate, taken to a cosmic extreme. The eye was later healed and restored by Thoth, the god of wisdom, and it became a symbol of making things whole again. By painting this symbol onto your own skin, you are inviting that same divine restoration into your life. You dip the ebony stick into the jar of black galena, the paste feeling thick and velvety. You begin to extend the outer wing of your eyeliner, pulling it further back toward your ear. But then, you do something different. You draw a small, curved line downward from the inner corner of your eye, followed by a stylized spiral, like flourish beneath the center of the lid. These are the specific markings of the falcon, the bird that represents Horus. You have to be incredibly careful. Trying to draw a perfect geometric symbol on your own face in the flickering light of a single lamp is like trying to write a letter on a grape while someone shakes the table. It takes a level of patience that would make a modern saint weep with frustration. But you find the challenge grounding. Historians still argue whether the specific elongated wing of the Kohl was a literal attempt to transform the wearer into a vessel for the god Horus, or just a stylistic choice that eventually became a religious habit. Some believe the shape was purely functional at first, designed to mimic the markings of a bird of prey that can see clearly in the dark, while others argue that every smudge of paint was a deliberate invocation. You don't care much for the academic debate right now. All you know is that, as the falcon's eye takes shape on your face, you feel a sense of psychic weight being lifted. You are no longer just a person in a dark room. You are a being under the protection of the great king. You are marking yourself as someone who belongs to the light, even when the sun is nowhere to be seen. A quirky tidbit that often gets overlooked is that some people would mix crushed semi-precious stones, like lapis lazuli or turquoise, into their nighttime kohl to give it extra magical potency. This was incredibly expensive and likely very scratchy. Imagine trying to sleep with tiny bits of sapphire in your eyelashes. But for the wealthy, it was seen as the ultimate spiritual insurance policy. You stick to your high-quality galena, which has its own silver shimmer. The sparkles in the black paste catch the light of the lamp, making your eyes look like they contain their own miniature galaxies. You finish the right eye and move to the left, the moon eye. This is the one that was broken and healed, the one that represents the cycle of the month and the return of hope. You find yourself thinking about the unseen spirits that the villagers whisper about, the ones that hover in the corners of the ceiling or hide in the empty water jars. They say these spirits are attracted to the smell of fear and the sight of an unprotected face. You give a little, sleepy chuckle as you realize that if a ghost is genuinely scared off by a bit of oily rock, it probably wasn't a very impressive ghost to begin with. Still, the ritual gives you a sense of agency. You are drawing a circle around your vision, a boundary that says, nothing uninvited may enter here. It's the ancient equivalent of locking your front door and turning on a security camera, except your security system is made of lead and your app is a bronze mirror. As you paint the final flourish of the spiral, you feel a deep sense of calm. The room seems quieter, the shadows less threatening. You are wrapped in the protection of the wedjat. You think about the mathematics of the eye, how the different parts of the symbol represented fractions used by the scribes to measure grain and medicine. The eye was a whole, but it was made of parts a 1/2, 1/4, 1/8, and so on. It is a beautiful irony that the symbol of mystery and magic is also a symbol of order and calculation. It reminds you that the world is balanced, even when it feels chaotic. You are a small part of that balance, a single fraction in the great equation of the Nile. You put down the coal stick and pick up a small amulet made of green faience. It is shaped like the Eye of Horus, a tiny version of the lines you just painted on your face. You tie it around your neck with a simple linen cord, the cool ceramic resting against your chest. This is the double-layer approach, the paint on your skin and the stone on your heart. You feel like you could walk through the darkest tomb and not lose your way. You are ready for the night. You move toward your sleeping mat, but you stop for a moment at the small household shrine in the corner. You leave a tiny drop of oil in the offering bowl, a silent thank you for the protection of the day and a request for the safety of the night. The lamp is burning low now, the oil almost gone. You watch the flame flicker and dance, its light reflecting in your dark, rimmed eyes. You see the falcon staring back at you in the mirror one last time. It is a powerful, steady gaze. You feel a connection to the thousands of years of people who have done this before you, and the thousands who will do it after. The ritual of the Eyeliner is a bridge across time, a shared human experience that transcends the specifics of language or geography. We all want to feel safe. We all want to feel seen. We all want to know that something larger than ourselves is watching over us while we dream. You lie down on your mat, the wooden headrest feeling familiar and supportive. You close your eyes, and the darkness is no longer something to be feared. It is a soft, velvety blanket that matches the texture of your Kohl. You feel the presence of the Wedjat as a warm, protective glow behind your eyelids. You are safe. You are whole. You are part of the divine order. You listen to the silence of the house, which is no longer empty, but filled with the quiet energy of your intention. You are a vessel for the light of Horus, even in the heart of the night. As you drift toward sleep, your mind wanders to the story of the moon. They say that the moon is the Eye of Horus being slowly restored, bit by bit, until it is full and bright once again. You like the idea that even the sky participates in this ritual of healing. You feel your breathing slow down, matching the rhythm of the rising and falling of the tide. The world is a vast, interconnected machine of spirit and matter, and you have found your place within it. You are a painter of the soul, a guardian of the gate, a sleeper in the valley of the gods. The last thing you think about is the morning, when you will wash away these sacred lines and start the process all over again. The beauty of the ritual is in its repetition. It is a daily reaffirmation of your place in the universe. But for now, the lines are there, the amulet is there, and the gods are there. You allow yourself to sink into the deep, dark waters of sleep, confident that you will wake up to see the sun rise over the eastern cliffs once more. The falcon is watching. The eye is open. The night is yours. You imagine the spirits of your ancestors standing in the room with you, their eyes also rimmed with the dark protection of the Kohl. They are a silent, supportive crowd, a lineage of strength and wisdom that stretches back to the beginning of time. You feel their presence as a gentle warmth, a reassurance that you are never truly alone. You are the latest chapter in a very long book, a book written in black and green, in stone and oil. You smile in your sleep, a quiet, knowing expression that reflects the peace in your heart. The silence of the night is profound, a heavy, comforting weight that presses down on the world. You feel the ancient stones of the house breathing with you, their heat slowly dissipating into the cool air. The Nile flows nearby, a constant, rhythmic presence that anchors the land. You are part of this landscape, a living element of the Egyptian earth. Your eyeliner is the signature of your soul, a mark that says you are here, you are awake, and you are protected. You drift deeper into the dream world, where the symbols of the gods come to life, and the stars sing a song of eternal order. The journey of the day has been long, from the desert mines to the grinding stone, through the heat of the market and the medicine of the apothecary, to this final, spiritual invocation. You have covered all the bases. You have cared for your body, your health, and your spirit. You have lived a full, meaningful day in the heart of the most advanced civilization on earth. You feel a sense of profound accomplishment, a quiet pride in your ability to navigate the complexities of your world. You are a master of the ritual, a weaver of the black and the green. As the stars shift in their celestial dance, moving across the sky in their predestined paths, you remain still and peaceful on your mat. The Eye of Horus on your face is a beacon, a small, dark star that mirrors the lights above. You are a microcosm of the universe, a tiny reflection of the grand design. You feel the harmony of the spheres vibrating in your very bones. The night is a sanctuary, a place of rest and renewal, and you have prepared yourself to receive its gifts. You are at peace with yourself and with the gods. The morning will bring its own challenges, its own needs for focus and strength. But the ritual of the Kohl will be there to guide you through it. It is the constant in your life, the anchor that keeps you steady in the flow of time. You are a participant in a sacred mystery, a daily act of creation that brings beauty and protection to your world. You are grateful for the minerals of the earth, the oils of the plants, and the wisdom of your ancestors. You are grateful for the gift of sight, both physical and spiritual. You sink into the final, deepest layer of rest, where words and symbols fade away, leaving only the pure, unadulterated essence of being. You are the river, you are the desert, you are the sky. You are the eye that never blinks, the watchman on the wall of eternity. You are safe. You are loved. You are home. And as the night flows on, carrying you toward the dawn, you remain cocooned in the dark, velvety protection of the Kohl, a silent witness to the enduring power of the Egyptian spirit. The flickers of the oil lamp finally die out, leaving the room in a state of perfect, ink-black darkness. But to you, the darkness is not empty. It is filled with the patterns of the Wedjat, the memory of the light, and the promise of the coming sun. You are a creature of the Nile, a child of the pharaohs, a soul rimmed in the majesty of the minerals. You sleep the sleep of the just, the sleep of the protected, the sleep of the beautiful. The world turns, the gods watch, and the eyeliner remains, a silent prayer written in the language of the earth on the canvas of your face. You realize that the secret of the ancient Egyptian eyeliner rituals isn't just about the lead or the malachite. It's about the intention. It's about taking the time to acknowledge your own worth and your own need for protection. It's about turning a mundane task into a moment of connection. You have mastered this secret, and it has changed your life. You are no longer just a person reacting to the world. You are a person who shapes it, starting with your own gaze. You feel a final surge of contentment before the deep sleep takes you completely. The night is a bridge, and you are crossing it with grace. The stars are your guides, the Kohl is your shield, and the gods are your companions. You have nothing to fear. You have everything to gain. The story of the eyeliner is the story of your life, a journey of color, protection, and faith. You are the author of this story, and you are writing it one line at a time. As the silence of the valley becomes absolute, you drift into the heart of the mystery, a single, dark, rimmed eye open to the wonder of the eternal. You can almost hear the soft, rhythmic chanting of the priests in the distant temple. Their voice is a low, soothing hum that vibrates through the ground. They are performing the same rituals, making the same invocations, keeping the world in balance. You are a part of that collective effort, a small but vital link in the chain of existence. You feel a sense of belonging that is deeper than words, a connection that transcends the individual self. You are the people of the Kohl, the people of the light, the people of the eternal river. And as you finally, completely vanish into the world of dreams, the image of the Eye of Horus remains, a lingering spark of silver in the dark. It is the last thing you see before the great, peaceful void of rest takes hold. You are ready for whatever lies beyond the horizon. You are ready for the rebirth of the sun. You are ready for the continuation of the ritual. The falcon is silent, the eye is whole, and the sleeper is at rest in the heart of the ancient world. The cycle is complete, and yet it is always beginning. the black and the green, the stone and the oil, the prayer and the protection, they are all one. You are one with them. You are one with the land. You are one with the gods. Sleep now, child of the Nile, for the night is your sanctuary and the eyeliner is your shield. The world is safe. The stars are bright, and the morning is a promise that will never be broken. The deep, ink blue velvet of the Egyptian night has finally settled over the valley, and the heat of the day is now nothing more than a faint, radiating memory held within the mud, brick walls of your home. You stand by the small, high window, looking out at the sky, where the stars are so bright and dense they look like spilled salt on a dark table. The moon, a silver curved blade, hangs over the Nile, casting a shimmering path across the water that seems to lead straight into the afterlife. You feel the cool breeze from the river finally reaching into the room, carrying the scent of damp earth and the heavy, sweet perfume of the night blooming jasmine. Your body is heavy with a deep, satisfied exhaustion, the kind that only comes from a day where every hour was filled with purpose and every ritual was honored. You reach up to touch the skin near your temple, feeling the dry, slightly waxy texture of the Kohl. It is still there, your faithful shadow, your silent guardian. You move away from the window, your feet finding the familiar, smooth path across the floor. You don't need a lamp now. The moonlight is enough to guide you through the room where every object has its place. You stop at the water basin one last time, but you don't reach for the scrubbing sand. Instead, you merely dip your fingers into the cool water and press them to your forehead and the back of your neck. Historians still argue whether the ancient Egyptians removed their heavy eye paint before sleep, or if the accumulation of lead over a lifetime of 24-hour wear was actually a slow, acting poison that contributed to the shorter lifespans of the era. However, recent studies on those synthesized lead salts suggest that the dosage was so carefully controlled that the antibacterial benefits likely far outweighed the risks of chronic toxicity. For you, the idea of washing it off feels like taking off your clothes in the middle of a cold wind. The Kohl is a part of your identity now, a spiritual layer of skin that you aren't ready to shed. You decide to leave the mask on, a common practice for those who believe that the soul needs to be protected even during its travels through the world of dreams. There is a mainstream historical fact that many Egyptians were buried with their full cosmetic kits, including palettes, jars, and coal sticks, because the transition from life to death was seen as a journey that required the same tools of protection and beauty. If you're going to meet Osiris, you definitely don't want to show up with puffy, unprotected eyes and a lack of proper wing definition. You imagine yourself in the future, resting in a stone chamber, your face forever painted with the black and the green, a permanent, ready state for eternity. It's a bit of a heavy thought for a Tuesday night, but in Thebes, the afterlife is basically just the ultimate retirement plan with better scenery. You move toward your sleeping mat, the woven reeds feeling cool and dry. You pick up your wooden headrest, that curved block of polished sycamore that has been your nightly companion for years. It looks like a torture device designed by a very confused carpenter. But once you settle your neck into the curve, it provides a strange, floating sensation for your head. It keeps your hairstyle intact, and more importantly, It prevents your face from rubbing against the mat, ensuring that your kohl remains pristine. It's the original. Don't smudge the masterpiece. Technology. You could call it a chiropractor's nightmare, but in a world where neck support is a matter of life and death, you've learned to love this rigid little log. You lie down slowly, feeling your vertebrae click into place as the wood supports the base of your skull. A quirky tidbit that circulates among the temple dream interpreters is the belief that Kohl acts as a night vision for the ka, or the soul. They say that when you sleep, your soul leaves your body to wander the valley, and the dark lines around your eyes help it see through the illusions of the shadow world. It's a comforting idea that even while your physical eyes are closed, your spiritual eyes are wide open and rimmed with the silver glint of the galena. You feel like a traveler who has packed everything they need for a long journey. You have the desert stone in your skin, the mountain oil in your pores, and the falcon's wing on your lids. You are a walking, sleeping alchemy experiment. The ginger cat from the morning appears at the edge of your mat, its eyes glowing like two small, green lamps in the dark. It looks at you with a slow, deliberate blink, and then jumps onto the foot of the bed, turning in 3 circles before settling into a tight, warm ball of fur. You feel its weight against your feet, a grounding presence that keeps you anchored to the room. The cat doesn't need a wooden headrest or a mineral-rich paste to feel safe. It simply exists in a state of perpetual feline confidence. You find yourself smiling at the animal's unpaid internship as your guardian, though you suspect it's really just here for the warmth and the occasional scrap of dried fish. If only we could all be as naturally well-lined and self-assured as a house cat in Thebes. The house is completely silent now, save for the soft, rhythmic sound of the cat's breathing and the distant, muffled sigh of the Nile as it pushes against the banks. You find yourself reflecting on the day's cycle. You remember the golden sunrise and the cool alabaster jar. You think of the long, hot walk to the eastern desert and the stubborn donkeys who probably had a better union than the miners. You recall the sound of the basalt grinding stone, that steady, whispering hiss that turned a mountain into a powder. You remember the precision of the ebony stick and the way the bronze mirror turned your reflection into a hero of legend. Every step of the ritual was a labor of love, a commitment to the harmony of the self and the world. You think about the crocodile dung sunscreen again and laugh softly into the quiet room. How lucky you are to live in a time and place where you have access to the fine minerals of the earth. You imagine the modern world, if such a thing could ever exist, and wonder if they will still be obsessed with the lines around their eyes. Will they remember the galena? Will they know the secret of the malachite? Or will they just see it as a splash of color on a screen? You realize that it doesn't really matter. The ritual is timeless because the need is timeless. Whether it's 4,000 years ago or 4,000 years in the future, people will always want to feel protected, beautiful, and connected to something larger than their own small lives. You feel your breathing begin to sync with the heartbeat of the river. The air in the room is perfectly still, and the moonlight has moved across the floor, now illuminating the corner where your cosmetic chest sits. The cedar wood glows softly, a dark, spicy treasury of your identity. You feel a sense of profound peace. You have done the work. You have honored the gods of the sun and the moon. You have protected your health and your spirit. Your eyes are resting behind their dark curtains, ready to process the dreams that the night will bring. You feel as though you are sinking into a deep, cool pool of silver water, the surface closing over you with a gentle, silent ripple. The irony of your day isn't lost on you. You spent hours acting as a Bronze Age chemist, mixing complex lead compounds and navigating geological hazards, only to end up exactly where you started on a reed mat, watching the stars. But you are different now. You are reinforced. You are armored. You are a person who knows the cost of their own gaze. You feel the tension draining out of your toes, your ankles, your knees. You let your hips sink into the mat, and your shoulders loosen their grip on the day's burdens. Your neck feels long and supported, your head light and airy. The world outside is a vast, ancient mystery, but inside your room, everything is known and safe. Historians still argue whether the daily application of Kohl was more about the physical environment or the spiritual one. But as you drift closer to sleep, you realize that for you, there is no difference. The fly that is repelled by the galena is the same as the demon that is repelled by the Eye of Horus. The sun that is blocked by the black paint is the same as the chaos that is blocked by the ritual. It is a unified theory of being, a way of living where every smudge of paint is a line in a prayer. You feel the weight of the night pressing down on you, but it isn't a heavy weight. It's a warm, protective embrace. You are exactly where you are supposed to be, tucked into the cradle of history. The cat shifts its weight, letting out a soft, contented purr that vibrates through the linen of your tunic. You feel your eyelids getting heavier and heavier, the dark kohl providing a final, soothing shade. You aren't just going to sleep. You are embarking on the night's journey. You have your mask, you have your amulet, and you have your steady heart. The river will flow while you dream, the stars will turn while you rest, and the sun will wait for your eyes to open before it begins its own climb back into the sky. You are a part of the eternal rhythm, a single, beautifully painted line in the great, unfolding story of the Nile. As you drift, the images of the day begin to blur and merge. The green of the malachite becomes the green of the riverbank. The black of the galena becomes the black of the fertile soil. You see the faces of your neighbors, their eyes all rimmed with the same dark protection, a community of watchers in the night. You see the great stone statues of the kings, their gaze fixed on the horizon, their kohl-lined eyes never closing. You feel a sense of immense belonging, a connection to the land and the people that transcends the boundaries of time and space. You are home. You are safe. You are at rest. The final remnants of the day's thoughts float away like tiny papyrus boats on a vast, dark lake. You are no longer thinking about the grinding stone, or the market, or the flies. You are only aware of the coolness of the air, the softness of the night, and the steady, quiet pulse of your own life. You are a masterpiece of minerals and intent, a sleeper in the heart of a kingdom that knows the power of a single line. You allow the darkness to take you, knowing that you are protected by the black and the green, by the stone and the oil, by the gods and the ancestors. You are ready for the dream. You are ready for the rest. The world outside your window has faded into a deep, silent indigo, and the sounds of the city have finally dissolved into the steady, rhythmic breathing of the earth. The air is cool and still, carrying only the faint, ghostly scent of the river and the dry, ancient dust of the hills. You feel your body becoming lighter, as if you are floating just a few inches above your mat, suspended in the gentle current of the night. The tension has left your jaw, your hands are open and relaxed, and your mind is a clear, dark mirror reflecting the stars. There is no rush, no noise, and no requirement for you to be anything other than a quiet witness to the passing of time. The kohl around your eyes is a soft, comforting boundary, a final promise of safety as you step away from the waking world. The silence is your sanctuary now, a vast and peaceful space where you can let go of every word and every thought. You are drifting on the slow, silver tide of the Nile, moving toward a place of perfect stillness and deep, restorative sleep. The shadows in the room are soft and friendly, wrapping around you like a cocoon of dark silk. You feel the warmth of the cat at your feet, a tiny spark of life in the quiet dark. Everything is in its place. Everything is as it should be. The ritual is complete, and the protection is absolute. You are part of the long, beautiful dream of the valley, a dream that has lasted for thousands of years, and will last for thousands more. Let the darkness be your blanket, and the silence be your song. You are safe, you are whole, and you are deeply, peacefully asleep.